This is the left wing. Well, what a week we've got coming up. We're back in our home away from home. We're back in tour. The Ireland squad arrived back here yesterday. Cian, Tracey and Rory O'Connor are here. Cian, we were saying earlier this morning that it felt like there was a change of seasons from when we left on Thursday and when we came back yesterday. Although it's still pretty warm here.
Yeah, when the sun's out, it's still pretty warm. But yesterday, when I arrived back in the morning, there was a mini storm in Tour, and I suppose like anywhere else, it felt like a very different place. There's a lovely square here called Place Plumerou, and you have like loads of bars and restaurants, and people sit out there every night of the week, it seems. But last night, that obviously wasn't happening. Just behind us, the old what was it? The merry-go-round has been packed
it's been
up.
taken down. Yeah,
that's a sign. That's
gone.
a sign. I mean, don't worry, like it'll be okay. But we are
got to go.
We are heading into the autumn now. But yeah, I'd heard as well. Like there's a few bars along the river, and apparently they're starting to shut up now as well. So for the season, so I guess it's a sign that we are getting kind of into the meat and drink, aren't we, of the World Cup, which is timely for the week that we have ahead of us here.
Yeah, you were back late last night, Rory. You were
I decided to
having some me time again.
Yeah, listening to my audiobook, and I don't know if you guys went through this as well. When you were applying for accreditation, you got a bit excited and you were like, "Oh, I'll go to this game. I'll go to this game." And sure, Bordeaux so I thought Bordeaux was just around the corner from Nantes, a little hour and a half spin or 2 hour spin, but actually it was 3.5 hours down and then 3.5 hours back to Tour in the car on my own. So I had a lot of time to think, a lot of time to contemplate life. But was it worth the trip to see South Africa beat Romania 69-0? I'm not entirely sure it was. It was a fairly nothing game, but and then I went down to the press conference and asked Jack Neenan about Ireland, having done so last week, and he stonewalled me last week, and he stonewalled me again yesterday. It's as if he never heard of the place. Like he's going to be moving there in 3 weeks' time, hopefully 3 weeks' time if he goes out.
You're already on the back foot now, and he arrives in UCD for the first Monday.
I'm not going anymore. I'm boycotting. He won't answer my questions. I'm not going to go. Apparently, he just doesn't talk about the next game on the day of the match. He's so in the focus, but we got a couple of them afterwards, and they were all very good. So you'll be seeing those pieces appear.
What did you take out of it? Obviously, there's new.
They're big men. Yeah, in the mix zone. They're like the Irish lads are big, but the South Africans, like Orgy Snyman, got to chat to him, and every time I meet him, I'm still taken aback by the scale of him. I'm not a small man. I interviewed Franz Malherbe, who isn't quite as imposing as you think, but when you look at his weight stats, he's 140. I wouldn't like scrummaging against him. No. I was a tight head as well, so I'd be able to avoid him. I'd be on Kitsoff. I'd be on Kitsoff.
I'd love to see
me against Kitsy. That'd be good. Good contest. A lot of fire in the bellies there. Like Sean Klein, still a big man. They walked one after another walk through the mix zone, and you're like, Jesus, and then another one. And another one, and the task doesn't get. In terms of the match, there's nothing to take out of it. They were, they played their 4 scrum halves. They got Marco van Staden and Dion Furry time at hooker, both scrummaging and throwing into the line out. But I mean, I know Romania caused Ireland a few issues out of touch last week. But I mean, the Romanian spirit has been broken by facing the world's number 1 and 2 teams in the world within 8 days of each other. Like, what a disastrous schedule. They didn't even qualify for this World Cup. They got in by default, and this was their reward. So those poor fellas, they looked like they were happy to be kind of doing a lap of honour at the end, but that was one of those mismatches that really... And maybe for neutrals watching Ireland do that to them a week ago as well, we were looking at it from an Irish prism, so we weren't maybe focusing on Romania, but actually being there yesterday and South Africa having the bonus point secured by 11.5 minutes, it's just...
Could have been more as well.
It could have been. It should have been more. If the rain hadn't, the heavens opened in Bordeaux and it rained, and that kind of slowed them down a little bit, and they
just as well they picked 4 scrum halves. Imagine they'd actually loaded.
Well, in fairness to Grant Williams, he didn't look like a scrum half on the wing. Faf de Klerk didn't look like he was out of place at 10. But the one thing that once again, and obviously we're going to talk about what happened after the game in terms of them calling Andre Pollard up. Obviously, Jack Neenan didn't tell us that in the press conference. He waited till he was finished. Their goal kicking wasn't good, and they missed 4, and they missed 4 against Scotland as well. I don't think Andre Pollard is going to be involved against Ireland, but I think when it gets
bench?
No, I think they'll go either 6-2 or 7-1. I don't think he'll be on it. I think he'll play against Tonga in their final game because they're going to qualify from this pool, and by the quarter final he'll be involved in some capacity, whether it's either starting or on the bench. But they've nailed their colours to the Libbok mask.
I wouldn't be surprised if they have Pollard on the bench. I mean, it would be the most Rassie and Jack thing to do. I mean, I know he hasn't been in the squad for a while, and he only played a Premiership Cup game off the bench for Leicester. But I mean, we were talking about this in the video earlier. Like, he's a big game player. He knows the game plan like the back of his head. And if it's going to be as tight as we suspect, who do you want kicking a goal towards the end, or even if it comes down to a drop goal, which Sinead, you were obviously writing about in last Saturday. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Certainly the sense amongst the South African media was that he's in for a week's good training, put a bit of pressure on Libbok as well. Like it's like, you know, kick
come
your
the
goals.
knockouts. Like I mean, Pollard is starting.
I think Pollard will start. Yeah, come the knockouts, and then they have that Tonga. Did they have 2 weeks around Tonga? Yeah, they've gone week on week on week like Ireland. So they have Tonga, and then they've got 2 week break, so they have time to bed them into their systems. Yeah, like there's a massive logic in it. It's more the composition of their bench and the numbers game that we'll be talking about all week. As what they're well, not all week because they're naming their team tomorrow night, having brought it forward. So
surprise.
Yeah, like even like I think the media schedule we were looking at had them naming their team on Thursday, but I was talking to one of their media officers last night, and he goes, "No, we always name our team early in the week," and there was a surprise that if they delayed it, it would have been almost giving something back to Ireland. So we'll know a lot about South Africa's team tomorrow night.
So you think they'll go 7-1, do you? Or did you say 6-2?
Certainly the word was when they went 7-1 initially that it was designed with Ireland in mind.
Yeah.
As it gets closer, I'm less convinced that they will. It's such a risk.
I really hope they do. For the outcry alone, and for people saying that South Africa are ruining the game, which they're not.
Well, I think Ireland will hope. Ireland will hope they will, because the risk involved, as Luke Fitzgerald said in this very podcast, you just go with Libbok all day, every day, and you hope that in the hope that he either can't finish the game for whatever reason, and then they have to puff off the Clerk at 10. And the Clerk looks like he can do a good job there, but he's not at 10. And at that level, against a team of the calibre of Ireland, you've got a chance to hurt them. And we saw in Toulouse Leinster earlier in the year, whenever that was, it feels like a long time ago, when Dupont had to move out of position, he was able to play at 10, but he wasn't half the player that he normally is. So the risk you take at 6-2 or 7-1 is huge. But certainly, I'd be so fascinating to see, and whether they do it all at once like they did in Twickenham that day.
Yeah.
And the obvious caveat is that if After Clerk does end up at 10 and he'd played 10 for a bit, like it was Romania, you know, I mean, I know I'm harping on about this, so...
Oh, no, absolutely. I don't think you can read anything into yesterday's
I think
game.
an Irish defence would absolutely pick him out and could definitely pick him apart. And it also disrupts the sort of the way they play with Faf as the shooter, you know, because they would need to redesign their defensive line now in terms of like one of the best people to do that. In Ian Arbor, you'd have no doubts. But I think Ireland would hope that they'll go 7-1, but I can't see it either. I think they will go 6-2, and I would think Ireland will stick to what they've been doing in 5-3. I can't see Ireland responding by going to 6-2, even though there would be a logic to it. But I don't know, would it be kind of almost admit...
What's the logic for it, Cian?
Like to go toe to toe with them, because when they roll off their bomb squad, even like I couldn't help but think the other night that against Tonga that Ireland's bench had a fair bit of punch with it. And if you're adding in potentially Dan Sheehan, like if you're bringing, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe McCarthy's going to be involved this weekend, possibly off the bench. Ian Henderson, Ryan Baird put himself about, and you're bringing someone like Robbie Henshaw off the bench as well. But I think if Ireland were to go with a 6-2 now, having not done it at all, it would almost kind of feed into the mental challenge that, you know, okay, we are a bit fearful of what South Africa can do. So I really can't see Andy Farrell doing it. Everything that we know about him up to this point would suggest that they wouldn't. And
I think the way they counter it is by having a centre on the bench, not 23 jerseys. So they will go with probably Henshaw in that position, and you know, he is basically another flanker. You know, he's a physical presence in his own right. You know, you're not losing much there. Obviously he can't contribute at scrum time, which is where South Africa will get most of and in the Mall, where they get most of their energy through that 6-2 split, or the 7 with the bomb squad.
Mr. Bundyaki, which I was watching back the game actually.
He was in there.
Yeah, which I did notice, but I hadn't noticed at the time, I will admit. I mean, it's amazing the things that you actually miss when you watch it live. He switched sides of the scrum, so they were obviously worried about the power that was coming through from...
Was it the position of the scrum, or was it...
No, it was basically almost the scrum was right next to each other. Just when O'Mahony got binned at the end of the first half, he ended up just slotting in directly for O'Mahony, but then he switched with Josh van der Fleer. So that was just a little interesting.
They played 8 for Connacht for a while.
And then he was in the line out for Caelan Doris's try as well at the back of it. So that was obviously a pre-planned move, but he was the one who added his serious bulk for that maul to go over. I'm going to be writing about this in tomorrow's paper in terms of the lineup, but that was a really intricate detail that again might have been missed at the time. But so Bundyaki, apart from doing everything, I think he made 90 metres off 12 carries, but he also found himself in the scrum and the line out, which was interesting.
Before we go, lads, let's just have a quick look at the other games. Obviously England had that win over Japan, and Fiji, wow, I mean this Pool C is getting very interesting.
Yeah, like I was in Bordeaux last week for the Fiji-Wales game, and it was just heartbreaking. I mean, from a Fijian point of view, I thought, like, at the time, and I think I made this point to you guys on the pod last week, that Wales probably didn't get enough credit. I mean, this is a good Fijian team. Let's remember they won at Twickenham just before the World Cup, and obviously they won last night, an absolutely dire result, dire performance from an Australian point of view. But this is really all about Fiji. They got to 2 losing bonus points against Wales, which was really important. And now, having beaten Australia, they're they're very much alive and kicking in this pool. This pool was always, I think, going to be one of the most exciting because it was so hard to predict what was going to happen, and you can see why Fiji are everyone's favourite, the second favourite team. I mean, it's the style of rugby they play. They're singing off the pitch. I mentioned it last week as well. Like, I mean, I just love that sort of stuff. We saw a bit of it from the Tongans at the weekend. Just a brilliant culture, and they are right in it, aren't they? I mean, you look
I think they're through now. I think if they get 10 points in their next 2 games, I think they're. Well, and 16 they would have, and they should against Georgia and Portugal. If they screwed it up, it'd be awful. It'd be very disappointing for them. I mean, they deserve to be here, and they're playing like they deserve to be here. They're not playing Fijian rugby really. They have the physical capabilities to open up when they need to. But I thought their breakdown work from the bits that I saw
Bhatia made such
phenomenal.
A big difference. I mean, I couldn't believe he didn't start against Wales. I have a feeling he might have been carrying an injury. That's just a guess because it didn't make much sense. But what a difference he makes, and I actually meant to make that point. Or I
think they're pragmatic. Like they may have just been managing their squad across the 5 weeks, and in the hope of being at a quarter final and being able, like if they play. Are they looking at probably, if they top the pool, they probably play Argentina, Japan or Samoa? Like they could be in a semi-final. Ireland could be playing Fiji in a semi-final if things go to plan.
I went for that. Fiji to make the last
I think their squad is a little bit callow, and I think they're reliant on a couple of players. I think their goal kicking is still a bit of an issue, and like I would worry even if they come up against a good pack at the scrum. I think
when are they going to do that? Like you're not really. None of those teams. Samoa could do damage to them actually, because Samoa have some really good type 5 forwards. But whether Samoa get out of that pool, Japan look well off it. And Argentina are so unpredictable. I mean, I didn't quite understand the hype around Argentina coming into the tournament. I think I tipped them for semi-final based on the run they have, they have there. But I thought there's no guarantees that them getting out. I think Samoa could do damage in that pool as well. So, it's probably the worst pool at the tournament by a country mile. Actually, that pool D. England are going to top it now after last night, and they're falling in love with themselves once again. But there's nothing to fear there.
With England,
and just. Again, I listened to this on the radio and I've just watched back highlights, but like the frustration that Chris Ashton and Matt Dawson had listening to it, the way Chris Ashton has played under Borthwick, he knows what they're trying to do, and he kept saying that they were kicking when, the whole idea of the kicking is to pull the other team out of shape, but they were kicking while the other team was out of shape. They'd done the job to Japan, but they were going to they're playing by rote all the time. Now they bring Farrell back into the mix. Obviously, Vinopilla came back last night. They have good players. They've got world-class talent. They will be difficult to beat. But I don't think they have enough weapons to hurt the league teams when it comes to the crunch. And but from where they were 2-3 weeks ago, they take it.
No one should be surprised, though. I mean, that England are playing this style of rugby. I mean, Borthwick's Leicester, who won the Premiership, were absolutely awful to watch. And then when Leicester went into the Champions Cup, they got absolutely hammered. I was over at Welford Road by Leinster. I know Borthwick wasn't obviously coached this year, but Leinster beat them well as well. So it doesn't translate. I mean, the Premiership, we've said it for so long. I mean, it's a different ball game when you step up to Champions Cup rugby, and it's a different level again when you step up to international rugby. But just one quick point, Sinead, on Japan. There's loads of reasons why, and COVID I think was one of the main ones, but it's so disappointing that Japan haven't been able to kick on since 2019. I mean, the joy and the thrills that they brought, I mean, on and off the pitch, it was amazing being there. I mean, when they beat Ireland, I know everyone talks about it as being a horror show, but for me it was one of the best sporting occasions I've ever been at, when you remove the emotion from the occasion and the style of rugby that they played. And for so long people were trying to copy them. Tony Brown, one of the sharpest attack coaches in the world, like Jamie Joseph is going back to the Highlanders after the World Cup, and it feels like the air is going out of the balloon a bit.
I think they need a new coach, that they need a bit of a reset. They need to find more Japanese players to play in the team as well. I think there's a bit of an issue there connecting with the Japanese public after what happened 4 years ago. They have a huge support base. What they in Fiji and Samoa and Portugal and all the teams that are showing up here, they need competitive game time. And right now the ship is actually leaving the port, and they're being left behind. I think Fiji will get on board with the new World Series. Look, this is a big debate topic, but these teams need games. And I'm not saying Romania obviously should have to be promoted into something like that. Like, they need to work towards it over time. But if we want Japan to build on what they did in 2019, they need to be in the Rugby Championship, or some competition that works for all of these teams. And it shouldn't just be Japan and Fiji because they've been good recently. There should be a path into that. They shouldn't be left behind by World Rugby. They should be integrated into the sport. Like, I thought it was a bit of a disgrace when I was looking at doing my graphic for last Saturday. Ireland have only played Tonga twice in their entire history. I mean, that's a shameful reflection on the RFU that they haven't arranged more fixtures.
And they said they hadn't played a Tier 1 nation since 2021, I think, was it, afterwards?
And when Ireland played Samoa in Bayonne, we were talking to Mapasua, and he was saying that this is only the second Tier 1 game we've had in the 4-year cycle.
That's incredible.
So it's just wrong.
And we have these conversations every World Cup because, like, we're so kind of focused on Ireland. But you talk about, like, the legacy of the Japan World Cup in 2019. I was actually back over in Japan in July, and we were only a couple of months out from the World Cup, and I know obviously the World Cup wasn't on in Japan this time, but there was nothing around. Like, when the World Cup was there, it was brilliant, but it was swallowed up by the size of the country. But when I was back there was just there was nothing to suggest that, like, oh, the Brave Blossoms are heading to the World Cup. And you look at the strength of the league, and strength is probably doing a lot of heavy lifting there, but the star power and the big names that they get and the money that they pump in, it's just not being reflected in the team as well. And you're probably right, Rod, and maybe they need to look at getting more kind of Japanese players in rather than trying to get players qualifying kind of late in the day, because you could see in 2019 like the potential that they have as a country. And for me, like, lots of the focus is going to be on England, but I'm just really disappointed that this style of play and, like, even the players, we just haven't seen it, like, kicking on from 2019. It's disappointing. It
is disappointing. So we are going to dig more into Ireland against South Africa when we're back again on Wednesday. The team, of course, is going to be announced on Thursday, so there'll be few talking points, do we think, about the team to...
I don't think there's actually much. I think there's obviously a couple of key
injuries, really.
There's the injury stuff.
And you think Gibson Park will start?
I went for Conor Murray. We've all picked teams for a jury tomorrow, or I don't know when it's going to be published. I went for Murray actually on the back of the other day. Gibson Park hasn't been brilliant in pre-season, and I like the idea of Gibson Park actually coming on and changing the pace in the second half to counter the bomb squad. But I wouldn't be, I'm not nailing my cover.
Too late. It's in print.
It's in print, but I wouldn't be disappointed if Gibson Park started. As I thought about it, I thought that might be an option. Especially, I thought Murray was really. He got a back form. And I was calling for Murray to be dropped 4 years ago. Right now, I think he is the form guy. I think having Gibson Park as a rival has brought a new quality out in him, and even the way he's been with us, he's such a calm and influential figure in that group. I think. You back form. If he's in better form, you go for him. They're watching training. Gibson Park, the pace that he brings to Ireland is magnificent. And
you need to double down for that, I think, against the Boks. Personally,
that's it. But over 80 minutes. Anyway, it's a flip of a coin, really. Apart from that, like, McCarthy on the bench looks like, I think Baird is more made for Scotland. I think that you could flip the coin of those two, but actually it's a horse for course.
I think Baird need to do a
little
bit more
Henderson,
against Tonga.
I went with that back row from Romania. I went with Baird, O'Mahony, Doris with Van der Fleer to come on like he did against Romania and up the pace again. I'm looking at a tempo base to counter the bomb squad, but I'm overthinking
I'm going Tyg Byrne, James Ryan with Peter O'Mahony, Josh Van der Fleer, Caelan Doris. I think Henderson and Joe McCarthy on the bench, unless Jack Conan is fit.
Henderson and Joe McCarthy.
Yeah, because you can move Tyg Byrne then into the back row if you need. That would be my thinking.
I think you need fresh back row legs, to be honest.
And did you go for Murray? Or
no, to be honest, I don't think that's much of a debate. I think Conor Murray played brilliant, but I think you need to double down on the pace against this Boks team. I think you need to move them around, and for me, Gibson Park is one of the best in the world at that.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking Conor Murray to start.
Would you start Cian if he's fit?
I think Kelleher played so well that there's no.
I put Cian on the bench, Kelleher to start.
I think there's a greater. The lesson of Murrayfield, I think, is like it's actually a greater risk to start the injured player on the bench, isn't it? Because I suppose at hooker you can replace it, but
I think if Kelleher didn't play as well, if the line-out didn't go as well as it did, James Ryan was playing, Tyg Byrne was playing, I think there'd be a very strong argument that you roll the dice because Dan Sheehan is so good. But to me, that was the Ronan Kelleher when he first broke onto the scene.
Yeah.
He was outstanding. I mean, every time he got the ball in the first half, he was making dents. He was getting over the gain line. And look, that 1-2 combination is so important, particularly when you're going up against the Boks, the bomb squad. So I don't think there's much of a.
And Herring has huge rhythm. Like I think he'd be probably the most unlucky player
he
outside
would, yeah.
23 if he misses out.
He would, yeah. I would agree.
And it would be obviously special. I mean, I asked him about this in the mix zone, and he wasn't really going for it. But like, it would be special for him to play against South Africa at the World Cup as well. Having hailed from Cape Town, he's been in Belfast long enough at this stage. He nearly has an accent. But I think you start Cian because he brings, again, sorry, to go back to my pace bench, if I'm picking my pace bench, maybe I should go for him as part of it to be consistent across it. But I think they start him. I think there's a reason that the country lost its mind when he had an injury a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Will and Luke will be back here tomorrow, and we'll be back again on Wednesday.